Governor.
May I just, because this is a talking point from the right, and we've seen other states that have moved with gas tax reductions, and we haven't seen the commensurate reduction because there is no guarantee. It means more money in the pocket of big oil companies. Everything he just said is literally stripped and ripped from the talking points that big oil provides to him and his colleagues.
Why is it not $2.50 a gallon lower in Nevada?
It's $2. Why? It's $2. We were paying a few weeks ago upwards of $2.60 more than the national average because these companies are ripping you off and ripping us off. And that's why I want to move forward with a price gouging penalty to address this abuse. Period, full stop.
Governor,
you have 5 refiners that represent 97% of that industry. They have record profits, $26 billion just last quarter, 276% increase, Chevron Corporation alone. They're funding your campaigns and the campaigns of others like you. But let me be very clear. This whole idea that a gas tax somehow is going to provide relief, as you suggest in your questioning, has been rebutted, not just by the examples of other states, but by leading economists that say it's nothing more than a gimmick. These rebate checks we're providing and what I just did, and this is important, we have seen a 65-cent reduction since peak in the last few weeks because we ordered the winter blend through the Air Resources Board, and we have seen gas prices go down in the state of California without a gas tax repeal that could not guarantee.
You're calling for a special session of the legislature to enact a windfall profits tax. That would be after the election, December 5th, when the new legislature comes in. We've seen no legislation. There's no details. There was a similar effort in the Assembly that died earlier this year. So how do we know that it's not a gimmick on your part to be calling for a special session?
Because we're working with legislative leaders and we're working to make sure that we get it right. We're looking and reviewing what's happened in other countries that are pursuing similar policies, different and novel strategies here in the United States. There have been leaders across this country that have promoted similar efforts, and we're looking at the unique characteristics and a deeper dive of understanding of what's driving these gas prices here in California. There's no justification, none whatsoever, for these outrageous, usurious costs in the state of California. It is not $1.42. That's nonsense. That's inaccurate. There is an increase in our environmental rules and regulations, which he wants to roll them all back. There is an increase in terms of those costs, but nowhere near the $2.60 above average national costs that we were paying a few weeks ago. Today, it's $1.97. The reality is they're ripping you off, taking advantage. And we are working with legislative leaders to get this right. It's never been done at the state level. We want to do it right. And it's the first day back in session on December 5th. We mean business. And we will be publishing and introducing that legislation very, very shortly. And we'll have an ample chance to review it. And I hope, Brian, you support the effort.
I want to No, we asked our audience and partner stations what they wanted to ask you both, and we received over 200 questions. So a lot of the topics we're talking about today, gas prices, homelessness, water, did help shape what we're asking you. We also got a question from KVPR in the Central Valley for you, Governor. As the state moves to phase out fossil fuels, what are you doing to make sure that places like Kern County, which rely heavily on oil for their economy, aren't being left behind? What do you say to workers there who are just worried about their ability to continue making a living?
We don't believe in a just transition rhetorically. We put $600 million in this year's budget. My opponent opposed that $600 million allocation to create a framework to provide support and economic opportunities in that region. We modeled it after something called Fresno Drive, which we launched a few years ago, and BK3, which is around the Kern County area in Bakersfield, a novel strategy to build partnerships, public-private partnerships, public-public partnerships. We added this $600 million appropriation so that we can drive a different conversation about what the world looks like in a post-oil future.
Can you talk about where that money goes?
This is important that we just put out, it goes to model programs like the Fresno Drive. The reason I bring up the Fresno Drive, it's a model example of partnerships between the universities, between the private sector, and local and regional, as well as state agencies to drive a new economic and workforce vision for the region. It was such a success that we put those resources up, and we want to see those resources invested. That said, I'm also very proud to see the transition in Kern County already is one of the world's leaders in renewable energy because of our renewable energy policies, because the policy's been an accelerator of providing unprecedented investments in the state. Let me be specific. There are 200 headquartered green energy companies specifically targeting zero and electric vehicles. 43 ZEV manufacturers already in the state of California. It's $1 trillion industry, and we are going to dominate this industry. Just last week, against all of the council and efforts to undermine the transition, we saw 18%, 17.7% of Californians purchasing electric vehicles. We know this works, these strategies and policies work to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. We also know they work to accelerate our economic growth and development in the state of California.